The Wilderburbs by Lincoln Bramwell. Communities on Nature's Edge. Lincoln Bramwell is a chief historian at the U.S. Forest Service in Washington, D.C., and has an office in Fort Collins, Colorado. Bramwell was a wildfire firefighter within the U.S. Forestry Service for 10 years across the United States. He is currently affiliated with Colorado State University and the chief historian as the USDA Forest Service. Additionally, he served as a research director with the Public History Program at the University of Nevada and acted as the assistant editor with the University of the New Mexico Press. During his tenure as a research director, he managed many environmental programs. These included being the co-principal investigator at Yosemite Administrative History, Cooperative Ecosystems Studies Unit, National Park Service, co-principal investigator, Lake Mead National Recreation Area Historic Resource Study, National Park Service, co-principal investigator, St. Thomas, Nevada, Historic Resource Study, National Park Service. Bramwell defines where science and land management meet. The scientific community considers his work regarding ethics, prioritization of conservation, and sustainability as a cornerstone of the environmental protection movement. Bramwell's research on the impact of wildfires to climate change are widely accepted in the scientific community. Innovative conservation and preservation strategies are necessary to preserve biodiversity within fire-prone environments. He is an environmental scientist studying the impact of climate change on biodiversity loss. His work focuses on researching and creating strategies that could mitigate the effects of global warming. Bramwell attended several universities to obtain his PhD. He attended the University of New Mexico, the University of Utah, and Brigham Young University. While fighting fires, Bramwell noticed changes in land development and how those changes influenced culture and land use. He began research for the Wilderburbs while firefighting. He had a first-hand vantage point to study the impact on the natural environment and community development. He examined and documented the impacts and interactions of land development in previously uninhabited spaces. Specifically, he began to observe an increase in residential and community development scattered across, and nestled within the mountains. Bramwell has co-authored, and edited a variety of books and articles, many of which are scholarly, that affect both government and the private environmental policy movement. He currently serves on several private, public, and governmental boards, councils, and committees. The time span of Bramwell's accolades, awards, and recognitions are considerable. He began in 1987 as an Eagle Scout in the Boy Scouts of America. He is considered an expert in archives, research, and departmental management at the U.S. Forestry Service. Wilderburbs, rethinking land management. One of the main themes of the Wilderburbs is playing out on the most news channels: urban sprawl and wildfires. An increase in life safety and property damages are a direct result of unchecked land management, lack of environmental buffer planning, and resource depletion. These land management use issues have resulted in some of the worst wildfires ever seen in the western U.S. As seen on the news, the depletion of water resources, increased demand and usage, and the management or mismanagement has resulted in billions of dollars in damage and loss of life in California. It remains to be seen how the fires began. Regardless of how the fires began, the inability of fire managers to contain the spread has resulted in dire consequences. Evacuation orders and curfews have been issued, and the fire has the potential to continue to spread despite firefighting efforts. The lack of water for fire suppression is somewhat surprising, considering the affluent, luxurious areas that are being affected. In the Wilderburbs, Bramwell examines the same issues that currently continue to threaten life and property. The increase of construction, developments, and infrastructure in areas that are near the natural environment is a cornerstone of the Wilderburbs. The lack of proactive measures or land buffer management combines with extreme weather events to create a perfect storm catastrophe. The Wilderburbs seems prophetic. Bramwell researched the risks of residential and commercial development nature adjacent. Many different fire management mitigation strategies were discussed in the book. Building, land development, and fire codes appear to have been secondary thoughts within the active wildfire areas. The same issues that Bramwell discussed in the Wilderburbs, written in 2014, are more relevant than ever. Crafting effective and sustainable and balanced land management policies. The management and enforcement of sustainable and effective land management codes, both current and future, requires significant cooperation between public, private, and governmental agencies. The unintended negative ecological impacts of installing infrastructure, building construction, and community development are exposed, especially within remote and previously uninhabited areas. It is imperative for developing communities near ecologically sensitive areas to consider the risk of fire and the conservation of natural resources. Bramwell's experience as a firefighter furnished him with a unique insight into the current and the future land use and the complexities of unintended consequences and impacts of human and environmental cohabitation. Impacts of unsustainable agricultural practices. Future land use planning for sustainable agricultural and successful food management is necessary in the western U.S., especially with the inherent increase in wildfires and decrease in water availability. Sustainability is a global issue which affects society's ability to responsibly use natural resources. Increase in lot minimum size, impervious land coverage ratios, and a decrease in cultivated landscapes have had positive impacts on fire management. Protection of these complex, diverse, and balanced biological systems are humane, economically viable, and socially just. Water resource management is paramount to combat wildfires.